Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about games from Steam Next Fest. You see, it can be kind of hard to find a good games through Steam Next Fest, but I always feel like there's some really interesting offerings. And at least in terms of games that I enjoy, there are quite a few of them here. And quite frankly, there were so many this time around, I couldn't really pick. So, we have 14 games here today that we're going to be talking about. I've linked to all of them in the description along with timestamps and so on, and I hope you'll check them out. They each appeal to something different for me, and some to the same thing. I won't lie, there's a lot of dungeon crawlers in here, but I absolutely love all of these games a lot. So let's get right into it. Voidbound is literally a third-person shooter Pokemon set in space. And if that doesn't sell you on the concept, then let me sell it for you. Void Wrangler is a game where you play as a Void Wrangler, funnily enough, and you are sent down to different research bases to fight the Void using creatures that you basically neural link yourself to. So you control the creature that you then send out to slaughter all the enemies in front of you. Now, you might think of some big beast when I say slaughter all the enemies, but no, so far the two creatures that I saw in the demo were fairly cute. And on top of that, it doesn't just end with creature collection, because of course there are multiple creatures that you can collect within the demo as well, but the way you collect them is through the missions. The missions are essentially very much like every other mission selection game, where you select like the mission that you want to play, and in the demo, we have survival maps where you have like these waves that you gotta survive. And we have more linear exploration maps, I like to call them, where you can explore around, you can find different plants that unlock research points that you can use to upgrade your creature, and you can find eggs, which is used to hatch into new creatures. It is pretty cool, honestly. Especially considering the fact that the creatures that you have can then be further evolved into different elements, which then get further evolutions depending on which path you want to go down. Meaning that there's a lot of gameplay opportunities with them, in the sense that you can go every route and they feel unique enough to the point where it seems at least a little bit different. As an example, I ended up going with my first creature as being a fire chicken that could shoot a rocket-propelled pellet at the enemy through its mouth. It is insanely cute. But more than that, I think the game is just genuinely super interesting. There are also different combinations of creatures. Like, I found a chicken that has an ice element, something which I couldn't give my first space chicken. And while I didn't play around with the ice elemental chicken as I got it towards the end of the demo, it does prove that there is different evolutions. And the evolutions also change how the creature looks. So you might upgrade your creature one way and your friend upgrade it the other way, and it will change how it looks visually, and the entire model will sometimes change depending on how far in your evolution you are. It is really fun. There's also like different small upgrades to your creature that can increase damage percentages and fire rate and so on. Basic shit, but really just adding on to the fun. I really enjoy Creature Wrangler, and I just want to show you my very first impression when I saw one of the creatures, the very first one you get in the demo for the first time. Oh my god. Oh my god, you're so goofy. That's so cute. And if you don't believe me when I say that the creature is cute, then at least you gotta agree that it shoots pretty fast. This is like my literal life reaction when I started to play the game and got into the first mission. Did I place a creature? Oh. Alright, I got my aim here. I actually reload the chicken. Holy shit. Holy cannoli. Which is to say that Void Wrangler honestly was a bit of a surprise pick for me this time. I really enjoyed the game, and I will most definitely be picking this up. I find it really fun and really cute as well. I really like the way that this game plays. I like the way you're running around exploring different things, solving simple puzzles. It really does bring me back to simpler time in gaming, and I appreciate that. I also think that the entire thing where you play as a chicken and you get all of these cool movement abilities and finishers, well, it just appeals to me for no particular reason. But with all of that being said, let's move on to the next one. Up next, we have No Vacation for an Executioner. Now, full transparency, I've been following this game for quite a while, as I noticed the art style and it just really hooked me. It has the griminess that something like Labyrinth of the Demon King also had that grabbed me there, and it has a really quite dimmed art palette or like color choice, where it's mostly black and white and a little bit of red and so on. I really like it actually. I think it's quite unique looking, and on top of that, I like the game itself. When it came to gameplay, I didn't really expect anything that out there, but what you get is a very parry-based game, and definitely not one of the easier ones I've played. I died quite a lot just within the demo of No Vacation for an Executioner, but I think the game itself is pretty fun. There's a lot of parrying, there's a lot of blocking, and you will be going through this like you attack, then they attack, then you block, then you attack, then they attack, then you block, and so on and so forth. And it has a backstab mechanic. I think it's pretty fun. I think my favorite mechanic in terms of combat is just the gun. I really, and I mean like I love the idea of just putting out a flintlock pistol and shooting an enemy in the head. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it really is, and the fact that you can spam it makes it even kind of funnier. It's just really cool. Genuinely one of the more unique games I feel like we've played, and it's one that I've been looking forward to trying for quite a while. I also love, and I mean I love, the atmosphere in this game too. Obviously, atmosphere is a big thing in horror games, and I think No Mercy for the Executioner gets it just right, where I don't feel like it is quote-unquote super scary and jump scary, but it has enough tension to the point where when I hear a gunshot ring out, sometimes that will get me as an actual jump scare because I just didn't notice the enemy. There's a lot of that in the game. I also feel like the combat system maybe sometimes can be a little buggy, but that could also just be a massive fucking skill issue on my part. I absolutely adore it though, and it's one that I will absolutely be checking out when it comes out. Up next we have a Ruined Beast City. Now, I have never played a Suda 51 game, but graphically it reminds me quite a bit of something like Killer 7 or any of Suda's works. I think Ruined Beast City is one of those games that for me feels amazing to play. Now, the combat itself, which is what we really exclusively have within the demo, is a very Sekiro-ish. You have a gun that you need to use for counterattacks sometimes, but otherwise you're parrying and you're dodging. You aren't really doing damage to a boss's health bar in Ruined Beast City, however you are filling up a stagger meter that when full you then get to do a finishing move or maining move that will then transition the boss into the next phase. From what I can tell, usually 2 phases is like all it takes for it to go to like the next big phase for like an actual transition, and that seems to be the general gameplay loop. The little bit of gameplay that we do get within Ruined Beast City is very, very lo-fi, to be quite honest. And what I mean by that is that unless you're fighting the bosses, the big boss, then you seemingly are just walking. And it gives that really nostalgic feeling for me of watching a Samurai Jack episode. Just nothing happening, nothing happening, nothing happening, nothing happening. Then the biggest fight of your life and it's over fairly quickly, and then nothing happening, nothing happening, nothing happening. And then big fight, right? And it's really fucking cool. I absolutely love the aesthetic as well. The way this game looks is beautiful. I love the shell shading. I love the mild anime but not really style. I love the pseudo like anime shit here. I love it. I really do. And in the second boss fight that you get access to within Ruined Beast City within the demo, there's even what I think might be a unique song to the game. I'm not quite sure, but it was popping. It was doing some bangers. I fucking loved it. Overall, fantastic demo. Ardenfall is a surprisingly deep RPG. From the demo, it looks to mimic a lot of the Elder Scrolls type of deal. It's a big open world, you know, you have all your side stuff about your side quests and so on, or at least that's what it seems that it's going for. But on top of that, very much like with older Elder Scrolls games, you also have some pretty deep dungeons and a lot of wacky potions and equipment. As an example, I found a ring that made me jump 20 times as high. I have found potions of flying, supreme speed that increased my speed by 10,000%. I have found everything like that within this demo. There's also hard skill checks, meaning that the points that you distribute for your character actually matters objectively. You cannot just slap points into everything and then expect to have an all-arounder character. You have to pick specific things that you want to achieve with that character. For instance, I had a battle mage. I was battling using different staffs and whatnot, but I also wanted to be able to pass some speech checks, so I ended up going with speech and magic. But as a result of that, there were simply places I couldn't go because I lacked the agility requirement meant to go there. There's also things like thieving and so on, and there seems to be a pretty in-depth stealth system as well, where if you commit crime and you're caught in a crime, if you kill all the witnesses to that crime, then it isn't considered illegal anymore, as in nobody knows about it, so like what are they gonna do? It is an incredibly interesting little project, or little is the wrong word, but it's an incredibly interesting project that I deeply enjoyed the demo of, and one that I highly suggest you go and play too. I found the story to be interesting enough, but really what blew me away was just the sheer amount of fuckery with the potions. From flying to infinite jumps to levitating to everything in between. There's some weird shit here and I can't wait to explore more of it. Alright, for another contender of a weird shooter that update, we have Lunar Abyss. Lunar Abyss is a bullet hell first-person shooter that takes place on, funnily enough, what seems to be the moon, although I'm quite not entirely sure. You are a warden sent into this area as a sort of a prison sentence. You're finding secret artifacts and finding bosses, and in general, I cannot tell you what the fuck the story is about. The little I've seen so far, it seems pretty interesting. Seems like you're exploring some abandoned big old buildings, and there is some abandoned tech laying around, and I love the shooting. The gunplay in Lunar Abyss is quite frankly pretty fucking good, in the sense that while you don't necessarily aim as much as you literally have auto aim by just holding the right click button down, you'll be doing a lot of jumping, dodging, and swapping weapons. You see, the auto aim thing initially feels incredibly off because you're used to a lot of first-person shooters and shooters in general, requiring you to, well, aim. And in this game's case, you don't. And the reason is that it's a bullet hell where you have to swap between your weapons a lot. You will be doing a lot of swap rotations, especially in the second part of the demo. It's between the third and the second weapon that you have, and you'll constantly be swapping between them as they are all on cooldowns. And these cooldowns can last a little bit, and you will have to swap around when it's ready to shoot and when it isn't. It reminds me quite a lot of a Destiny damage rotation, if I'm being quite honest, and I fucking love it. I love the story where it's going so far with the entire Lunar Abyss thing. You just kind of wake up there and you gotta explore. I love the different weird aliens or constructs or whatever they're supposed to be. I love all of it so far. Lunar Abyss is actually a game I've played before on stream, and I fucking love this. I am definitely looking forward to the full release, and it is another one to just add to that list of games that are really interesting. It is unique. I've never quite played a game where it just outright gave me auto aim and asked me to just focus on swapping, dodging, and jumping, but I'm quite happy that I have now. I really like Lunar Abyss, and I hope to see the game when it is fully done. As our last game, we have Hark the Ghoul. Hark the Ghoul is another Kingsfield-like, and I quite enjoy this one. It plays a lot closer to Lunar Acid than something like Nox Mortalis, which we played before. Hark the Ghoul is essentially Kingsfield if you added a giant foot and the ability to kick barrels into enemies. And it is pretty fucking good. Clever level design, check. Good combat, check. Or rather, combat being the usual Kingsfield in that you have weapons with different abilities. Every weapon seemingly has a different moveset and different attack speeds, meaning that you will probably prefer some over others depending on the scenario you are in. You can also simply upgrade them. I never managed to find the blacksmith's tool within the demo, but what I can say is that the skill tree, which is another way you can upgrade yourself, is at least relatively unique looking. You see, whereas in most games you just have your stat page, here you have an entire tree that grows as you feed the sapling, so you grow this tree, which is also your save point, and when you're there you can then invest into your different skills. And like, when I say skills, I mean abilities like charging your kick more, attacking faster, having more ammo on you, stuff like that. Because you see, not only do you have your melee weapon, you also usually have a gun on you on all times. And you can use both, and since there is no stats, it doesn't mean that if you invest into one, you can't invest into the other. Like, there's no dex to strength scaling here, and that's pretty cool. I like the idea of going a little bit away from that system for a while. And on top of that, in my opinion, Hark the Ghoul has some of the most creative level design. When I say good level design, I mean that you can have a lot of exploration, that is true. But what I really enjoy about it is just the sheer freedom you have. I mean, you can go on rooftops, you can go underground in the sewers, you can jump around from place to place, you can break the game if you want to. There's a lot of opportunities due to how movement works in Hark the Ghoul. As an example, your foot, when you kick it into the ground, launches you upwards, and you can combine that with your normal jump to just launch yourself upwards. And it It gives you an insane amount of speed, but it also allows you to reach places you otherwise wouldn't have, and the developer seemingly intended for it, as he will hide items up on rooftops and places you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. Overall, Hark the Ghoul lived up to all my expectations. I've been wanting to play for quite a while, and now I got around to playing the demo. Love it. I can't wait for the full release of Hark the Ghoul. I'll absolutely be playing it, and it is like you should go up there with Verho or some of my favorite games of a long time, if not all time. Anyway, that is it for this one. When you play a nice and cozy game like Stardew Valley, do you ever stop to wonder what it would be like if it's horror? Well, me neither. But I learned of a game called Besmirch from a channel known as Bare Metal Brian. And today we're going to be playing the demo for Besmirch. And I can tell you, the idea of a horror cozy farming sim is really quite good. I really enjoyed the demo for Besmirch. It is made in the same style as games like Faith, which is to say, it is very low bit, aka not a lot of color, it is very retro, and it is using rotoscoping for all its cutscenes. I absolutely adore this style choice. I love the idea of horror in that style. I think minimalistic horror in that sense tends to just hit harder because it makes your mind work more. Essentially, you have to imagine a lot of the details that you might not have had to if the game was a full HD 940p 4K type of thing. And I really enjoy that. In addition, I do feel like the entire control scheme of it and sound font is also just really good. I love the sounds in Besmirch. Again, very much like I did with Faith. I really enjoy these old school Atari sounding things. I think horror on the Atari age of like consoles is just scarier because of how unnatural sounding any form of dialogue is on that system. I will also say that I really enjoy the entire farming sim aspect of Besmirch. The bit I got to play was really fun, and I genuinely enjoyed the townspeople and the writing in Besmirch. I think my biggest gripe with the combat is that it is very much like Stardew Valley, and that is both for good and bad. As you see, sometimes, while I love myself some Stardew Valley, I can find the combat to be a little bit simplistic, and Besmirch is no different in that regard either. Especially towards the latter half of the game where you get a gun, it can feel a little bit, just a tiny smidge too simple. But at the end of the day, it's also made to be a game from the Atari era of gaming, so no wonder. It is still pretty fun though, and I genuinely tend to enjoy the atmosphere that the game builds up through the fact that you almost never really know. And it is something that the game tends to use quite a lot to its advantage. The fact of the matter is you will have to experiment. And doing your exploration, you might genuinely find yourself lost in the middle of the night with sounds and literal blacked out darkness, so you can't really find your way back. You can't see what's right in front of you. And the game has this awesome thing where when there's a sound on the screen, it'll like have a little display of that sound, so you can just see these sounds pop up sometimes. It's fucking scary, man. It is tense without ever jumping into just being straight up jump scares. And I think that is a really, really cool thing. I think the coziness of Besmirch honestly is enhanced by the horror aspects of it, as without the tension it's hard to really also get the super cozy feel. And in that regard, I think Besmirch honestly really excels, at least here in the demo. Besmirch is definitely a game that I will be looking forward to playing when it comes out. But for now, let's move on to the next one. Up next is Calx, an abstract third-person action game. You have your traditional elements here like dodging and so on. There's even the perfect dodge that completely freezes enemies. And then you have a little triangle beside you that can act like a gun. Essentially you can use it to charge up your shot, so you can just spam click it to shoot past. But that can be used to hit certain weak points of enemies. Your sword is normally what you'd use for most fights, but the gun seems to be used in at least a few cases to simply deal with enemies or hit certain weak spots. On boss fights, they actually also use this gun mechanic with certain bosses having weak spots that then stun them for a moment if you hit, or you might also be able to decapitate one of the bosses to simply remove some of the threat from you. I think it's a pretty interesting system and one that I haven't really seen being done a lot, and I kinda really like it. The overall combat system does feel really good though. It's just very smooth, very fluent, constantly moving, constantly hitting stuff it's pretty fun. But in terms of the overall world, I think it's very beautiful. I love the fact that it's made up of these abstract shapes, or rather, it is more abstract than something like, let's say, Dark Souls or any of these other games where it's more defined. Calx is actually also tagged as being an abstract game, and I think that mostly rings true in the sense that there isn't a lot of dialogue, and a lot of the game does have this cel-shaded look, and the characters themselves are these abstract shapes and stuff. It's pretty interesting stuff, but I kind of enjoy it. I also think the way that the story itself is sort of evolved without a lot of dialogue, without a lot of oomph to it, is pretty neat. I like the fact that you just run around and scan stuff to get lore dumps, and then when there's a boss fight, there's a boss fight, right? It's pretty cool stuff. There's also platforming here, and that is also equally good. There's really not anything to complain about with Calx. It's a complete surprise for me. I didn't really expect it to be this good, but it is really good. I feel like the only thing that I can really doubt with the game is the fact that it has been tagged as being emotional on Steam, and I'm not quite sure where I am supposed to get these emotions from, but that might just be a me thing. I completely loved the game though. I feel like it was pretty fun. I found it to be great overall, and I think the world that it's set up is super interesting. And I think it is one that you should definitely check out. Nox Mortalis is a open world survival crafting-ish Kingsfield type of game. And when I say that, what I mean is that it takes the Kingsfield combat movement and feel, and it puts it in an open world. Then it adds a bunch of trees and rocks that you can run around and hit to create weapons. And then you'll then go into mines to then hit slightly bigger rods to create slightly better weapons, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, in the open world, there'll also be certain points of interest that you can explore to get a loot, and they will have their own secrets and hidden walls and so on. It is quite expansive, honestly, and it's also really fun. While in the demo you get quite overpowered, I kind of don't hope that's the case in the main game, but in the demo you can wear just about as many rings as you want to, and while I like that, it doesn't mean that you end up being pretty overpowered. And that is because the rings each have effects like, oh, you don't have to charge your sword any longer, or you no longer lose your currency on death. You see, the currency in this game is kind of XP in and of itself. So you level like you do in a Souls game, where you slap all your XP into a certain stat, and then if you die, you lose that, but there are rings that can nullify that effect, just like there are rings that will make you do more damage, or rings that will make it so that you don't have to charge your weapon anymore, and so on and so forth. There's also a bunch of hidden weapons all around the place in both the open world and in the dungeons, and there are NPCs that unfortunately, at least so far, don't have an end to their quests. I kind of hope that there's more to them, because I think they were pretty cool, and honestly, I just overall really enjoyed this demo. Nox Mortalis ends when you reach level 15 within its main dungeon structure. This works kind of like Stardew, where every 5 levels there's a checkpoint, and then you can go out. The deeper you go, the better the resources, the harder the enemies. It's an interesting enough system, and it keeps me pretty engaged, honestly. I really enjoyed what there was here, and I am kind of looking forward to seeing this evolving landscape of Kingsfield likes. I really think that's pretty interesting, and I love to see how people take these games and put them in different areas and in different everything, really, games all together. With this one being the open world one, and we have played a few different ones, and some that just attempt to imitate the already existing formula, which there's nothing wrong with as long as you put your own spin on it. And so far I haven't found a single dungeon crawler in that sort of general area with Kingsfield inspired mechanics that I genuinely dislike. And Nox Mortalis is just another one that I really enjoy. But I think I might also be a sucker for the entirety of Kingsfield's likes as a whole. But yeah, Nox Mortalis, open world Kingsfield, and I absolutely adore it. Talk about something I didn't know I needed. Alabaster is a indie pixel art action RPG. And honestly, when I first saw it, I didn't really think too much of it. But as I played through the demo, I got caught up first by its really cool fucking combat. The combat is fluent, it requires you switching, dodging, parrying. I love it. It is right up my alley in terms of combat. But what more caught me off guard was honestly the entire world that it's set in. You see, the gods have felt silent. You are a chosen one, you are the outcast of the chosen ones even. And you're supposed to sort of just find the gods, or rather you're supposed to banish an evil force that will then allow the gods to communicate more with you. And in doing so, there will be a bunch of puzzle solving, all of that good old stuff. However, what I think I like the most about Alabaster has to be the NPCs in the community system in the game. You see, by completing certain quests, and in the demo at least it was all the main quests, you actually see the towns that you're freeing build themselves up. You see how they evolve over time, and I think that's really cool. I think that's a cute little idea that you don't see being done too often. And when a game does something like that, I think it really does need some praise, because it's really fucking cool. On top of that, like I said, the combat felt good. In the demo, you have 2 ranged weapons and 2 melee ones. One of the melee ones being a hammer, and it is by far my favorite weapon. I love the slow build up to it. Oh, slow is the wrong word, but I love the fact that it's a little bit slower than the sword that's very fast paced. I love the range tools, even though I was playing on a PlayStation 5 controller and it could be a little bit hard to aim sometimes. It wasn't anything too bad. I love the boss fights. I think they were all really cool. The animations were gorgeous. The graphics are gorgeous. And I just really think Alabaster is a really, really good game. And it's one that is definitely worth looking forward to. And I think that is what I really do have to say about it. It's just a really good game. I love the idea of it. I love the execution so far. I like the equipment system, which is like these runes that you can slot into your different equipment slots. I like the skill tree. I like the look of the skill tree. I like the fact that it's not just a bland list of shit. I like the dialogue enough. I will say though, it does get me a little bit worried, as the last real pixel game I really got into was Sea of Stars, and there the dialogue could sometimes portray the game itself, in my opinion. But here that doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. Also, your spiritual guide seems to be a capybara, so if that tells you, you know, just go and get it. Don't play the demo. It's fucking awesome. It's really well worth playing. There's about a little bit over an hour worth of game in there. Go and get it, enjoy it, and on to the next one. Where to even begin? Burden Street Station is a abstract and surreal story and exploration game that puts narrative first. It's probably the sort of elevator pitch for it. Burden Street Station is a game where you play as a librarian, trying to sort memories and thoughts and feelings on a celestial plane, which is to say you're on the same plane as God. God has gone missing. He's gone. No more God. And your job is to find out why he has gone missing. To do that, you must travel around to different planes of existence or planets, and you will talk to different NPCs, interact with them, and find out their emotions. You will delve into their minds to extract emotions that you then can use yourself as the little freak that you are. And quite frankly, it sounds weird and absurd, and I love it. The demo itself was surprisingly deep, with characters that I almost immediately latched onto. I love the writing here. The writing skills at play is definitely what keeps me going through Burden Street Station, and while I think the initial intro to the game is a little weak in comparison to what you get into, once you get into the game, everywhere from the art to the really cool dialogue to how much emotions they make the different abstract shapes display is just really fucking cool. It is unlike anything I have ever played before. So, I mentioned that you extract emotions, and that is true. What that means though is that you cannot do certain emotions without having them extracted first. You need to learn them. You are a base worker, you are a base palette, no emotions here. So you need to learn the emotions to then be able to use it, which you will then use in dialogue to sort of progress the story. In my opinion, Burden Street Station was very forgiving with the dialogue system. While technically I think you can die, like there is a fail state of the game, I never reached it. I was fairly close sometimes, but there was always another rest stop or place you can go to heal up. And the healing mechanic in Burden Street is also a little bit abstract. And it is that when you rest on a bench or maybe you get to a hotel room, then you go into your mind palace to clean it up. And you do that by selecting the right items in like a selection in a row. You have to start with maybe the dog, and then you continue and so on and so forth. It is very, very weird, but it works really, really well. It is one of those things that is very hard to explain without you playing it per se, because it is really, really good. If it at all piqued your interest, like even in the slightest bit, I highly suggest you go and play the demo. It's free. It is linked below like every other demo. And Burden Street Station is probably the biggest surprise hit for me that I've played in a while. I had no idea this game existed, and now I can't stop thinking about it. I love the way the dialogue is written. It's very natural. I love the characters. I love the stories that they each individually have. They feel very real. and I just in general fucking love it. I can't get enough of this game. I am looking forward to the full release. You can be sure that you'll see more of this, and I will see you in the next game. PAPERHEAD is the official boomer shooter in this video. You know I can go long without talking about one, and PAPERHEAD is fucking cool. I love the graphical style of having this 2D cardboard cutout style of graphics. I love the fact that they managed to go so disturbing with something that normally is so cute. I like the dynamics between it, I like the duality that it poses, and I absolutely adore how every single gun that you play with in the demo, which is the auto rifle, the handgun, and of course the shotgun, feels. I absolutely adore the fast-paced nature of it. You have some real smooth sliding, and on top of that, the healing mechanic in PAPERHEAD is kinda unique, as you will erase other cardboard monsters and people in order to heal yourself. It is one of those things that is, again, really disturbing, but because it's done with these paper heads and this cardboard cutout thing, it sorta isn't as bad as it would have been otherwise, as you literally consume your enemies for HP. On top of that, I just absolutely adore the sound design. When I say meaty guns, I mean meat guns. They sound incredible. They feel good to shoot, they sound good. The damage is there, the knockback is there, it's just all really fucking solid. Definitely a must try if you're a fan of fast-paced shooters. I am absolutely in love with PAPERHEAD personally. 1348 X Voto is a game that is set in a realistic rendition of the 1300s Italy, which is to say Italy during the Black Plague. It is a fairly brutal game just through the demo itself, and it sets out to tell a what seems to be pretty dark story. And it is the major focus of the game. The story is one of those major things in the game where it is setting out to be a cinematic experience, it feels like, more so than your average game. It is also a game that strives for realism, meaning that you won't be seeing any dragons or anything like that in this one. I will also mention that I really like the combat system. The combat system itself is maybe nothing super special. It has your normal block and dodge and all that, but overall it feels much less reliant on you just spam dodging and much more on you just blocking a few attacks, then taking your turn to attack for a bit, then the enemy attacking you, you blocking them until you've eventually broken their guard, and then you can go in and, well, kill them. I will also say, in my personal opinion here when it comes to the combat system, there is this feeling where there is more than just that to it. You can actually skillfully outplay your enemy sometime. I have had the right time where I attack the enemy just as he is swinging, which means that my sword lands a hit on him, and then I can finish him off before he ever gets to land a hit on me. Is that like slight skill ceiling, and I kind of really enjoy that. I also feel like the story itself is pretty interesting. It starts off with the main character, well, telling you about how he lost the parents, you know, the parents aren't with him anymore, and you're essentially playing with a friend of yours, and within the main first chapter, the demo of the game, she gets kidnapped, which is what sets you out on your bloody path for vengeance. It is seemingly pretty interesting for what it is. And again, I think Italy is just a unique setting. It's not something that you see done often in a fantasy setting either. I think it's shaping up pretty interestingly. I think it's gonna be one of those that I will at least have a look at when it comes out a little bit after launch. We'll see about that one, as I do have quite a bit lined up. Here we have Parasite Mutant. Parasite Mutant is a spiritual successor to the Parasite Eve games. And while I've never played the Parasite Eve games, I've always had an explicit interest in them, just because they were so out of left field horror RPGs. And Parasite Mutant, while I can't say whether or not it's like Parasite Eve because I just haven't played them, I can't say I fucking love. The combat system itself is probably one of the most interesting things I've played in recent memory, and I am absolutely in love, and I mean in love with the atmosphere and the vibes that the game gives off. I love this mild horror RPG aesthetic, I love all of it a lot, and the combat system is for me pretty standout in that it is real-time and strategy, not like Clair Obscura where you have parrying and so on, but here you get to walk around the battlefield while the battle is going on, and then you will eventually get a little meter that charges up and then you can do an attack or use an ability or an item. And you can actually avoid damage by just walking away from the attack. Well, I think you can probably spruce up the combat system a little bit more with something like a dodge or anything else like that. I feel like this is pretty good where it's at. I like the combat system a lot. Like, quite a lot actually. There's also a certain distance that you can attack from and to, And some attacks will even allow you to attack an enemy while they are attacking you, avoiding all damage to you. Like, it's pretty interesting. On top of that, I have to be honest, I'm not normally a horror fan. There needs to be something else here, and I think the game is not that scary. But I do think the hook of like this mutant outbreak is enough for me. But that is also a personal opinion on that. I think if you like Parasite Eve and you have played them, then please let me know if this game is anything like them. I do think there is a pretty big idea that it has to be like the spiritual success, and in my opinion, it is at the very least pretty decent, and a game that I'm definitely looking forward to. So you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I put quite a lot of effort into trying to find some games that you might not have heard about, and some that just stands out as being completely unique and weird. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that today. I love all of these games equally, albeit I will say they each appeal to different things for me. Things like Burton Street Station really appeal to that storytelling part of it. I love that game a lot. But I also really like the dungeon crawlers in here. Of course, Hark the Ghoul is the perfect example of that, with its tight level design and so on. But also, Nox Mortalis, I also really like that one. But we have a lot of different ones, and honestly, if you enjoyed them, in my opinion, go and check them out. They're free demos. I've linked them all in the description, so you can just go down there and check them out. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please do the YouTube stuff and leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all of that. But with all that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.